Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Real CFO podcast. I'm excited to be joined by Andie Herrick. She is a world-renowned social worker turned bookkeeper, controller, you name it. So she's got a lot of nuggets she can share with us regarding bookkeeping and accounting and how finances and having that house in order is very, very important, and how she works with people, consults, coaches, that sort of thing. So welcome, Andie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. So we kind of do a lot of the same things, I'm sure. I don't know the kind of the totality of your business model and the work that you do, but as I kind of told you before, Real CFO is kind of our podcast and information gateway where we share information about financial systems, how to kind of become your own CFO of your small business versus hiring what some may call say they're fractional CFOs, so to speak, but learn how to do it in-house or be intentional about getting something done. And it's great when I can have folks that are kind of in the same line of work as me and see how you help and what you can do and the advice that you give our potential listeners. So tell me a little bit before we jump into the debits and credits, so to speak. How does one go from social worker to accountant, bookkeeper?
I tell that story an awful lot. I actually just posted about it yesterday because I felt like it needed to be documented so I can point people to the post.
Yeah.
The long and short of it is I had the virtual assistant, executive assistant, specialized services pipeline, which is really common, I think, in people who are working virtually or have agencies.
Mm-hmm.
I started offering admin services when my social work career shifted. I pivoted into working for myself. I was a solopreneur. I eventually had some clients come on who needed things I couldn't do. So I added a subcontractor who's now my business partner. And people kept asking for services we didn't know how to do. So we kept hiring people who knew how to do it. And we quickly found that accounting and bookkeeping was the highest request. And so we pruned down our services and focused on that. And the truth of it is, I'm really great at building a team, at taking care of my team, at doing sales, at understanding bookkeeping at a high level. I'm the worst bookkeeper on our team. So it's great because my team is skilled and they're excellent. They do their part. And I keep the villagers happy, hopefully.
No, that's amazing. You bring up a good point. You say you are the worst bookkeeper on your team.
Probably.
And there's reasons for that. I was in a meeting yesterday with a client, been a client for like 10 years. They are growing fast and we've grown with them through that process. At some point, they're going to have to get an in-house financial person. Mm-hmm. I see that coming. We had a meeting the other day to kind of talk about direction, focus, future. What does it look like? Because they're growing, scaling, changing. And he kind of broke it to me like, we need this. Okay. He goes, I hate to bust your bubble. I said, well, you're not busting my bubble. I'd be naive not to think that that's the direction you're going. But I want to be at the table, right, to offer solutions or at least provide guidance for you in that respect. But he had this long, drawn-out job description, and he found somebody, and I know that somebody, right? They sat on the board. Has bookkeeping, all of these skills down here that they want to do, but they also want this high-level strategic guidance. That is an anomaly,
mm-hmm.
right? Yep. Somebody that enjoys living here and living down here. So I'm glad to hear that you're kind of separate and recognize that. But so many business owners don't. They think they have to do everything. How do you, in terms of bringing people onto your team, I'm guessing they're doing work with you and you're not just placing the VAs, right?
We don't do any VA work anymore at all. Bookkeeping was so in demand that we are full stop a bookkeeping managerial accounting firm. Period. End of discussion. That is where we live. So like people used to come to us for social media services or VA services, and we are out of that game gladly. Like there's so many people that are great at that stuff.
Yeah.
Happy to refer. My whole job is to make friends and take care of my team. And if I'm making friends who want to do business with us, great, then I'm a successful salesperson. But like I don't have a single client of my own, not a single one. It is a beautiful thing. It's
Yeah,
great. And I think that's the gift of delegating, right? When we're
it is.
talking about people leading into those higher level skill sets. If you're running the business, you can be the CFO of your own company as you're running it, as you're looking at how to manage cash flow, how to hire, when to hire, who to hire. But that
Right.
doesn't mean you have to be in the service delivery at the same time. You can equip your team depending on your structure, of course. But for me, I'm grateful to have the kind of support that I need so I can focus on the things that need my attention.
Yeah, so tell me, when a business comes to you, they're probably feeling a pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their books are a mess, getting audited, whatever it may be. You can list out a few.
Sure.
How did your team go in and assess the situation, and what level of services are you providing to that customer?
So our perfect world is somebody who has had a bookkeeper. Unfortunately, this happens a lot. A bookkeeper that's not very communicative. Their idea of being highly communicative is once a quarter, right? Like 30 minutes once a quarter,
Right.
and probably closing the books 2 months after the fact. So if I can get a hold of them and say, look, you want your numbers done on a weekly basis, you want your books closed on a monthly basis, you want actionable information timely, we can do that for people. And better yet, best case scenario is they actually care to understand. And then we want to spend that time educating them, empowering them with information, much like what you do. I
Yeah.
want the lights to come on. I get excited when my clients are excited about their numbers, when they see what it means, when they see how they can make key decisions with data, not just by a gut check or a feeling or a whim or a hope or a prayer or whatever else
Yeah.
they might be running on. Like if they can actually run on the data, sometimes it's a confronting a little bit like, hey, that thing you really love doing, your sales are tiny, your costs are huge, it's costing you money. If you just stop doing that, you'll do better in business.
Yeah.
Those are fun, hard conversations, but at the end of the day, it means they eat, right? There's more, they keep more at their table, and we want that.
Well, everybody always thinks if I've got money in my bank account, all is good. Well, they're not seeing that 5,000 of that money in that bank account is from your line of credit because you overdrew, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's tied to it. But they don't see that. They're not recognizing, they're not intentional about focusing on that information. Yeah, no, it's great. Just like anything, right? You're in Arate. I don't know if you've done 75 hard, or you probably heard a lot about it if you haven't.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all about intention, being intentional about something. None of it's hard. It's not. The hard part is being intentional and disciplined enough to do it. If you can get a business owner to at least buy into the concept of having good books, and you send them to them regularly and communicate throughout the month with them regarding their financial situation, that interest and intent is going to build. We've kind of shifted to where we do a lot of bookkeeping.
Sure.
We have outsourced teams, in-house teams that do it, but I'm transitioning a little away from that. For instance, I had a couple calls the last few days, both similar situations, different industries, where they have a bookkeeper ish, right? They're paying them as a bookkeeper. They haven't reconciled for the last 2 months. There's a lot of loan accounts that have never been reconciled, just stuff that should be done.
Right.
They want to replace that. But they said, hey, my wife works in the business as well, and she does 70% of it. You guys have to take on the bookkeeping? I said, no. In fact, I don't want the bookkeeping. I want to show your wife how to do the other 30% and be really, really good at it, because she's going to be excited about the numbers. And if she's excited about the numbers, you're going to get excited about the numbers. And when we meet each month, those numbers are going to mean something. And then we can create actionable items that we're going to do for next month, and then see if we execute them. Budgets, forecasts, all of this stuff. And so, yeah, when the light comes on, because people haven't had that, you're an anomaly. What we do is an anomaly, and it blows my freaking mind when people tell me that. Like, you guys actually respond to text messages, phone calls, email,
Yes.
like literally real time almost. but at least within 24 hours. It's shocking.
Yep. I do think, and I've told people this a lot, if you don't value communication, then please choose someone else. You'll overpay if you choose us. But we build it into our offering. If somebody is going to work with us, we plan to communicate and we price accordingly. And so if somebody's coming to get the fast food of bookkeeping, they're just trying to drive by and have it be done and not participate, then like there's so many people that can help you with that. And we are not probably the best fit. Like you can find something cheaper and that probably is going to fit you better. And I think that is a funny thing, turning clients away sometimes because they're not interested, they're not invested, they don't care to be, they don't want the information, especially if they're not trying to scale. Just compliance is really okay. But if they're looking for that insight, it's invaluable to have somebody who will pick up the phone, who will answer the text like you do. Right. It makes a huge difference. And we find that we end up in the trenches with people a lot, that they're paying partly for conversations about bookkeeping and accounting, but what they're really getting is somebody to step by step, side by side, trudge through with them as they journey in business. And that's rare. It's rare to have somebody that you can let your guard down and say, I'm struggling with this, or this part's really hard, or I'm confused or a little bit lost here. And for people in a position like you and like me, we're inside of a lot of businesses. We end up with much more business insight than just the numbers. Yeah. And there's so much we can offer, even if it's just moral support. Like, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. People get through this. Here's what we've seen them do. Go off and try this and come back and tell me how it went.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It sounds like we're on the same page, at least in our approach to things. You know, I had a new client, I mean, fairly new, say one of those situations, multiple CPAs or bookkeepers along the line, and no one really communicated with him. He would ask questions. It'd be months before he'd get anything, or he had to ask 2 or 3 times, right? So he messaged me that, hey, you got 10 minutes? I'm looking to make a deal real quick. And so he called me and he goes, hey, I got a line on a new vehicle. And he goes, I need to make a decision fairly quick because they're limited, whatever. And I said, well, what's the cost? And it was about $130,000. I'm like, is that going to carry a ladder? Is it going to take shingles to the job site? Is it your cash flow? Why? You know, and I think he was shocked that I said that's a dumb tax strategy to go buy that particular vehicle, but it's real. I said, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. And you have the cash flow where you can do it. Is it the smartest move? I don't think it is. We can find other ways that you can invest that $130,000 and actually get more tax savings and an asset that builds that long-term wealth.
Yep.
You know,
if it's the happy wife strategy, great strategy. If it's tax, not the best.
Right. Right. Yeah, maybe it was a blended, but maybe it was a happy wife, but he was trying to justify in his mind by tax. Maybe I misread that whole deal. Maybe I'll call him back and make sure. Yeah. How's the relationship going since Tuesday, right? That might have been it. Totally. So how long have you guys been doing this?
I want to say August makes 8 years, and there's been some pivots along the way, but I think it's been 8 years. Yeah.
And you have one business partner?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. What do you offer, any like sort of training or courses, or is it all client specific?
We have some things in the works. Currently, it is client, and then client work, bookkeeping and accounting. But we also do some client education, where if somebody wants to be doing their own bookkeeping, and because we don't do tax prep, tax filing at all, it truly is just the bookkeeping education. And then we need to refer them out to a CPA once they get their books going. But those are the 2 pieces right now. We have some other courses and education and things coming. So stay tuned. Ask me again in 6 months.
Yeah, I will. And maybe we'll have something alongside you too. And maybe we can collaborate on something. I've always wanted to put together some sort of training. Maybe not, at least from my vantage, because I couldn't do it, the bookkeeping piece, but my team could, but more of the higher level thoughts, like create a community where you can share this knowledge and wisdom, because not a ton of people listen to our podcast. We're not Rogan. We're not Frisella, right? Yet. I doubt we ever will be. But, some sort of community that you're sharing that knowledge, that wealth, that information that I think is so valuable. What, you said you brought up tax. You guys don't do any tax filing or compliance. Do you look when you're working with a client for opportunities for that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think for now, our business model is not to do tax. It's just not our bag. We think it's amazing, and we would just rather collab with great CPAs and accountants who do that, tax accountants. Our approach is to be mindful of what's available, to flag things for people and say, hey, have you discussed this with your CPA? We're not experts. We're not tax accountants. This is not our expertise, but we see this a lot. And have you considered? And then usually we'll send an email to the CPA and be like, okay, hey, look, we're seeing this. It seems like a glaring, obvious thing. It's blatant. There's an opportunity here. Have you talked about that? But more ideally, we're referring out to a CPA that's strategic in the first place, and then collaborating with that CPA on multiple files. So then we kind of get a groove going. And what's that particular CPA's flavor? What strategies do they prefer? How do we like to see it expressed in the books? Our job is to make your job easier. Ideally, best case scenario, if we've done it right, we serve the client well and their CPA well. And if everybody's happy, then we're happy too.
Right. Yeah. We kind of handle all facets of it, but you're right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, more strategic CPAs. A lot of CPAs in the traditional brick and mortar offices aren't very proactive. It's a very reactive environment, right? You get the stuff, do the taxes. Here you go. This is what you owe. These are the estimates you pay for next year, based on your income. Do it. We'll do it again next year. Good luck. Proactive is strategy, and there's a lot of small businesses that have no strategy involved. Even the basic stuff, right?
For sure.
That's one thing that I always tell people is, we can even work with, if you like your CPA, because that's a relationship, your financial advisor, your CPA, all those you create bonds and relationships with them. Yeah, it's easy to go with the same thing over and over, even if they're not doing the advanced strategy work for you. So we keep that relationship. We'll work with your CPA, but we need to look at your numbers and build out tax strategy, and we'll give them what they need, but you'll save money. I don't care if we do your return or they do it. But that's the collaborative nature that I like to work with, is I'm not looking to steal anybody's clients. I don't want to, if somebody's doing bookkeeping, they refer somebody to me for tax. I don't want the bookkeeping. And if they want, some CFO or strategy talk, let's collaborate and get on the phone together, because 3 heads are better than 1. Right. Or 2. So that's kind of where we're at. So if we can ever provide any help to your clients there, we'd be more than happy to, and vice versa. If there's anything that we need from a bookkeeping standpoint, I'd be very open to a working relationship there. What in the next 3 to 5 years do you want to accomplish in your business?
It's a different answer now than it was when I started. It used to be just growing it and creating an employment environment that I had wanted, right? Like, I left my social work career out of necessity. I don't think I mentioned this. I adopted a special needs dog, a wheelchair puppy from Thailand, which is why I left social work. So I needed to figure out how to work from home virtually before it was cool. Hence the VA work turned into the accounting work. So I needed to create a place to work that allowed me to serve my personal life. And then now it's grown legs and we employ a bunch of people. But as I'm looking at it now, it's more of a legacy play, not how big can I grow it and how much can I make, but how can I have a professional pathway that supports me wanting to become a mom. And I know you're much further into the life journey on that front. I've not started yet. We've not had our kiddos yet. And
you just called me old.
no,
I'm not that old.
But you have like growing kids who are out there doing cool stuff in the world, and I have not even started yet. And so I think the answer is to have a company that is self-sustaining, that I can pour into when and how I'm available, but really to be protective of that time at home with my kids when they're little, because I'm looking at that in the next 3 to 5 years. That's my next chapter. So I did it backwards. I'm going to be semi-retired as I have children, and then come back to my own company when I'm ready to send them towards school. So
that's the way to do it. I'm going to be honest. I was starting my business when my kids were at that young nurturing age. And if there's one thing I had to do over again, I would either have started sooner or after, because it was a grime. It was a real grime. Let's touch on something else. AI.
Oh yeah.
Fan, not a fan. What do you think?
Well, okay. See, so I have this really tech savvy engineer as a business partner. I landed the whale. I'm sorry to anyone who does not have my business partner, because I win every time. She was in a Fortune 500 company as a mechanical engineer and left that to come run this little VA shop with me that's now turned into a bookkeeping firm. But like, she's a Six Sigma black belt. She's super techy. She's been using AI for 5 years already in her other company. And she is walking it out for us in our firm. So kind of whether I like it or want it or not is irrelevant. I am being voluntold that we are going headlong into it. And for us, our perspective is that it's meant to create efficiency and support people so that they can focus on strategy and relationship. I think that's the beautiful thing about the model that we have, is we're already oriented towards relationship, towards the value in people interacting. And the more we lean towards AI, the more room we're going to have to focus person to person, eye to eye, face to face. So we're excited about it. We see a lot of efficiencies already, and we're building some pretty cool stuff. So
no, that's awesome. You're way deeper in it than we are. So good for you. Good for you. We're trying to get there, but it's a lot of self-learning along the way and figuring it out. So you're leaps and bounds ahead, but just from a pure value standpoint, and one making strategy a little more cost effective, for some of these smaller businesses, we utilize it for the simplest things, but it saves 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour on several little simple tasks that now we don't have to think and do all that. Now we can just deliver kind of, what does it mean? What does it tell us? Right? And it's not always right. So you can't just plug and hit enter and then hand it to the client, right? But there's tons of value in it that, like you said, allows us to provide more of that strategic direction and higher level guidance than what we've done before, at least under budget.
Yep. And I think the way that people were concerned about paper world turning digital, or a non-internet connected world turning internet connected, we'll see similar shifts. We won't know what we can anticipate, but we're all going to face it together. And I do think to some extent there's a choice to be intimidated or nervous, or a choice to embrace it and see what its strengths are. And we all get to choose how we leverage it. I think there's been some conversation in our industry about the loss of jobs. And there's this interesting gap we see where if AI is doing the entry level role, what's the new entry point into accounting or bookkeeping if some of that is being backfilled? And so it leaves the conversation of strategy and being more big picture and more tech oriented, instead of what we used to see, at least in bookkeeping, of a lot of data entry and just understanding which side of the ledger and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think it's more building out the accounting system, making it optimized for the deliverable that you want. I think Andie said it best. I don't know if it was on a podcast or maybe on one of the calls, one evening is, people are going to look at it to cut jobs, remove workforce, and make more money. Said, I'm looking at it to throw gas on the fire to make my same number of people 10x the outputs, right, that
Yeah.
they already have. And I think that's the way I'm looking at it, is like, how can I utilize this, add efficiencies to where to our business, to where we can serve more people with the same number or a few more people,
Right.
and optimize it and create more value, more wealth for our end users. Because the more people we touch, the more value we're bringing to the communities that we serve, or
Yeah.
and that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I wish I had a business partner as if she's on trade, maybe we can, on trade for a couple months, we can work that out or something.
Somewhere in between the rocket science she's doing for fun and the business she's running with me and the clothing company she's building for herself, if you can get on her calendar, I'll lend her to you. But you got to fit it in around the rest of that.
I'll just swing by her place. I'll find her. I'll drive there. It'd probably be easier than getting on her calendar, I'm sure.
Next time you're in Dallas, we'll get into that.
Dallas. All right. Well, hey,
absolutely.
And I appreciate the time. I know you're busy. I appreciate you coming and just sharing. Hopefully, I know people will find it value if they listen to it. But, the commitment, just because we're in the same industry doesn't mean we have to harbor everything inside our minds and not share ideas and collaborate and do good things, because there are so many people, probably you listening to it, that need help. And the help from a financial perspective within your business is not as cost prohibitive as you think it is, right? If you are looking at your accounting, your bookkeeping, your tax planning as a cost, because that's what you're used to getting from your current providers, you're doing it wrong. You should be able to tie $1 ROI to your investment each month, each year, because decisions are being made and you're being intentional about learning, operating, and making decisions based off of that financial information. And you're going to win. If you do that, you're going to win. Just like in fitness, just like in your faith, your finances, your relationship, everything. If you're intentional about it, you focus on it and put some time to it, it's hard to lose. So I know Andie's out there doing her thing, and it looks like we'll see her all over the world with AI here before anybody else can get it implemented quick enough. Any parting words for the listeners, Andie?
Yeah, so I would just end with this, that if we're using AI well in our businesses, it's going to give us more leverage to take better care of our team. And I hope that part doesn't get lost in translation for folks that are implementing it. It's maintaining the jobs we have, but also, are we reinvesting back into the team we have? And how can we create more meaningful work, more highly compensated work, take better care, have more benefits? If we're creating that abundance for our companies, are we taking the time to turn back around and pour into our people, because they give us so much? So if you're listening and you haven't thought about that perspective, I would encourage you to. And thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That was powerful. Where can people find you, Andie? Website, Instagram, any?
I have a LinkedIn. Andie Herrick I'm Andie Herrick on LinkedIn. I think I'm maybe the only one, so it should be pretty easy to find me there. And then our website is untied.work, untied.work.
Untied.work. And I believe we have those links, so we'll share them in the show notes. We'll be sharing this with you as well once it's edited. So appreciate your time, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you got some value out of this. I know I did. Thanks, Andie.